So here we are. If I want my walls to be on first floor, I'm going to go to the first floor level. So open that up. Okay, again, as we're putting things in here, whatever level is open will be the default level. It'll be the base of whatever we put in here. I'll go to the Architecture tab and choose the Wall tool. Now, of all the things that are floating around in here, probably the most important one I want you to think about is this thing over here. This is called the type selector. So if there are different types of walls, you'll find them listed under here. You'll see that for the starting point file, I put in some types of walls that I thought might be useful. I got some 2x6 studs with wood siding. I got some 2x6 studs with stucco and shingle. I have some 2x6 studs with brick. I have some generic walls. Those are ones where I haven't really decided what the properties are going to be yet. Kind of like just kind of gray, massive walls. Okay, we can change these and create some new types. These are some default ones I created to get going. If you're working at the architectural template, the list looks a little bit different. Every template has its own little list of walls, and we're going to learn next time about how we create our own wall types to kind of really be any material you want. But for what I'm doing, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll just choose the 2x6s and the wood siding. Okay, you'll see that this wall is going to start on the first floor. It's going to go up to a certain height, and we can sort of control what height it's going to be. Mine currently says go up to level roof. That's kind of bring it up there to the second level. The other choice that you may be looking at is unconnected. Now, if you have unconnected there, you're going to put in some explicit height. So you'll put in 10 feet or 12 feet or 15 feet, whatever it is, and that'll be the height of the wall, regardless of what the floor levels are. So, you certainly can. Like, if you prefer to work with, you could either do it on the fly or generally. So let's talk about that. That's a very good question. The question is, can you change between imperial and metric? And I highly encourage you, work in the system you're comfortable with, because then you have a sort of a first-hand awareness of it. So let me show you, I'll first show you how you do it just on the fly, and then we'll show you how to do it more systematically. If, for example, you don't want to be 10 feet, because that seems like an odd measure to you, you prefer to be 3 meters, just go ahead and put the meter in there. Okay, and it'll do the conversion. It's very good at math. So go ahead and allow it to do that. Okay. So if you want to go through and enter dimensions like that, that is fine. Just so you know about dimensions, let's talk about dimensions ever so briefly here. The way the dimension system works, at least in the feet and inches system here, is the first number is always the feet, the second number is the inches. So let's think about this. If I wanted to put in something that was 3 feet tall, I have a lot of different choices. I could put in 3 space 0. Okay, that'll be 3 feet 0 inches. I could put in 0 space 36. Oops, if I can type it properly. Either one of those will work. It'll do the math. Okay, so as we're thinking about the heights of things, you'll see a lot of times, like with doors, I'll say it's 6'8", or I happen to know that's 80 inches, just because I'd use that number a lot. So you can put in 0.80, or you can put 6 space 8. Either way will work. Now, for my friends who prefer to work in the metric system, let's talk about that. Let's make it 10 feet for now. If you prefer metric units, what you do is, again, it's a managed thing. It's kind of a more high-level thing. It has more to do with the overall project than it does with the specifics here. We're going to go through and find project units. And if you like to think about all your lengths as opposed to being in feet and inches, if you like to think about it in meters, or if you want to type it in millimeters, whichever system's the most comfortable for you. Okay? No worries.
We can work in meters.
Was that?
We discussed we can work in meters.
Oh, please. That's fine. That's fine. So some of my parts have funny labels, because I'll say it's 3 feet by 6 feet on it, but it's accurate to the meters. And we can just, you know, you can, if you're working with a metric library, that's okay too. Now we need to be good and be international about this. That's okay. Okay, so you can say there's an explicit dimension here, but again, it's probably better to tie it to the roof level, because that way you have a relationship that says, hey, if anyone later decides that the floor-to-floor height changes, your structure will reform itself nicely. So it's better to go through whenever you can, as opposed to putting something explicit in there to describe the parameter or the relationship you want it to have. And then whatever roof happens to mean, it'll always have the right root meaning. Okay, it'll always adapt to it. So I'm going to go through and say, put it up to roof. Okay, we have some drawing tools up here. We have a tool for drawing straight lines. We can draw rectangles. We can draw circles. We can draw either inscribed or circumscribed kind of polygons. We can draw arcs. We can draw a lot of different things in here. But we'll draw some of those. There's a choice right here. It says chain. There's a little check box right there. That chain checks box is all about the whole issue of, as you keep on drawing, do you want the line to continue following you? So as you keep on clicking, will you just, or do you have to click twice? You have to do start and finish, or just keep on doing finishes. Okay, that'll pretty much get us going. There's one other choice in here. It's called location line. We'll talk a lot more about that next time, but basically the issue is when I draw a line, when I draw that 1 pixel thick line right down the middle of the wall, or wherever it is on the wall, the question is, what does it represent? Is it the outside face, the inside face, the middle? It can mean a lot of different things. So for today, just choose one, whether it's wall center line, or I tend to do things to the faces. Okay. But you'll see as you draw the line, it's going to have thickness, and it's really, what does it do to that relative to that? I'm going to make it the finished face exterior. Okay, so I'm going to draw some walls. I'll just click over here. I'll go drag it on out here. You notice as I'm dragging on out here, I'm starting to get some dimensions. It's going to give me a sense of how big I am. Okay. I'm going to encourage you not to worry a whole lot about the dimensions as we go, because what you tend to do in Revit is you tend to just sort of get things down and then adjust them. So don't worry about being incredibly precise, because we can change everything really easily. I'm going to draw down a little bit. Maybe make a little kind of Z-shaped thing over here. Okay. Oh, you might have noticed as I was coming up, if I actually happen to hit a good dimension, one where I was in line with something else, I got a little kind of inference line that sort of indicates things are lining up. A lot of CAD tools and SketchUp do things like that. But I'm just going to firmly connect it back in here. And hopefully things will all connect. Okay, so let me zoom on in there. We'll take a look. Okay, let's see how you guys are doing. We got some basic walls down. Okay, we don't have to worry about if they're pretty walls. They're kind of incredibly meaningful. We're just going to put some basic walls down. Now, as you put walls down, there's a couple of things to sort of know about. Walls actually have insides and outsides. And if I zoom on in here, you can actually see that the wall is made of several different layers. This sort of mirrors the construction, or represents the construction we typically would see out in the field, where we have some sort of a stud layer in the middle, some sort of structural layer. We have some sort of plywood on the outside, that's the yellow layer. Then we have some stucco or some siding on the outside. On the inside, it's probably gypsum board, something like we have here on the walls. Okay, so there's some layers, but there is an inside and an outside to a wall. Okay, yes?
Can you specify like furring battens, 1x4, something like that, along the face of the wall in this tool, or would that come later?
That'll come later. Okay, good question though. Yeah, this gives us pretty sort of basic surfaces, kind of flat surfaces. They can have a nice representation that actually looks good. In fact, let's go ahead and even look at what we have so far. So if you have, I'm going to say zoom to fit. If you have a nice floor plan and it's looking like this, and you want to sort of see what you've done so far in 3D, again, what I'll do is either double click on the thing that says 3D with the little kind of curly brackets around it, or if you prefer, you can go up to the kind of quick access toolbar at the top and click the little default 3D view there. Either way, it'll take you to the 3D view. And if you would like to sort of see the two together, what you can do is under View, say Window Tile again. I always like to tile the windows. Now, in this case, I got that, still have that elevation hanging around. So if I want to keep that open as I'm designing, I can. I'm going to close it and tile again. That'll just make the other two windows bigger. Okay, now tile has that shortcut, WT, so I'm just going to type WT. So whenever I use shortcuts, though, I will try to kind of like let you know, I'll kind of call them out a little bit. In fact, over here on this window on the right-hand side, if I want to zoom in on the region right where that is, I can use the zoom command. Zoom region is ZR. It's often sort of, it'll often be very similar to what you think it should be, just by the alphabet. Okay. Again, I'll come over here, I'll zoom that region, or you can just use your mouse. We got lots of options. Okay, so we got some walls kind of hanging around there. They're looking pretty good. You might remember I commented on walls having insides and outsides. And if you happen to have your walls where your inside's outside or your outside's inside, that's actually very easy to fix. What you do is you click on a wall, and if you want to change its orientation, you can flip it around. Okay, no worries. You can move the wall if you want to. If you want a precise dimension in there, you can. Dimensions are a little bit strange. Let's talk about that. If I want to move the wall, what I have to do is select the wall that I want to move, and then I edit the dimension. Now again, we're going to talk a lot about the specifics and the nuance of that next time. But for now, just sort of know it's sort of generally available. Okay, so do most people have a wall? Some sort of series of walls around things? Looking good? Okay, if you have some walls around your building and it's looking pretty good, let's go and try putting a couple interior walls in there too. Let's come back over to the Architecture tab, and I'll choose the Wall tool again. Now, this will be a different type of wall, as opposed to being that exterior 2x6 stud with wood siding or shingles or something like that. Go ahead and choose the interior wall. Again, we can make some other types as we work, but I'm going to put a nice interior wall here. You might notice when it put that interior wall in, it actually put it so it didn't go all the way up to the roof. Let's talk about why. Okay, when I put it in there, you might notice that the property just says unconnected 8. Okay, so it didn't match it up to the roof level. Not to worry though. Here's what we can do. For any wall or anything that comes out and it's not exactly what you have in mind, you could change the property later. So if you want to change it to be up to roof, you can. So again, this thing with Revit that's so nice is it's really hard to go wrong, because almost anything you do, even if it's not right at first, can be made right with just like 1 or 2 menu choices. Now, if I know that I want this wall to always go up to the roof, I want that to be the default, what I can do is just type it here now when no wall is selected, and that becomes the new default behavior. So that way it'll kind of continue that way from here on up. So I'm going to just make it go up to roof. And now this new one that I draw should go up to the roof level. Easy. Okay, a couple of other little variations just to help you think about walls as we go. As you're making your walls, and they're looking pretty good here, if you choose that you want to have a different type of wall because these siding walls are not your thing, they're looking a little boring, and you want to think about shingles or brick or something else, it's very easy. What you do is you can select the wall, and whether you want to select it in 3D or in 2D, doesn't matter. So here I've selected in 3D. You can see it also highlights in 2D. So whenever you select something, it'll highlight in all the different views. And if you want it to be a different type, that's the important thing about it, it's a different type, I can choose a different type. So I'll make it a brick wall instead. And you might notice, looks a little bit different now. or if I prefer that to be a shingle wall, I can make it look like that. I'll make that a shingle wall also. So pretty easy to go through and change things as we want. Okay, yes?
Is there any way, for example, to make the view a little less black? It's like it's hard to interpret.
Let's check what yours is doing. Hang on. The answer is going to be yes. The question is relative to your situation.
Like when I zoom out, it's fine, but
Oh, you got the big thick lines. Let's talk about that. Okay. Okay. No worries. The question is there any way to make basically, things less black, or the other way to express it is sort of like, make the lines quite not as thick or something like that. Let me show you sort of what we're asking about. I'll zoom in over here. Okay. And you might notice mine, oh, the skinny little lines, but yours are big fat lines. I wonder what the difference is right here. Okay. You always have a choice as to whether you'd like to see the lines represented the way they'll plot, or ultra thin little lines, which make it a little bit easier to spot where the boundaries are. And how you change that is there's actually a tool. It's actually right up here in the quick access toolbar. It's called thin lines. It's a view property. So if you click that, let me kind of show you. Here, I'll even zoom in further so you can sort of see. Okay, those are thin lines. Those are fat lines. Thin lines, fat lines. Just so you know, when they plot, this is the way they're going to look. The line width and all that kind of stuff. But for design purposes, I often keep thin lines on because it makes it a little bit easier to sort of see the precise surface. Okay, I'm back over in this view. I'm sort of zoomed in very far. So if I want to zoom out real quick, I can either say ZO to zoom out, or I can say ZF, zoom to fit. Either way sort of works. Then I'll ZR, get myself back in. Okay, I got these walls. These are actually looking pretty good. I've changed the type. They're looking pretty good right now. I'll put another exterior wall out here. I'll go through and say, oh, I'm going to put a little stucco wall out here. And going to go up to the roof. That looks fine. I'm going to have it come over, come back. Now, you may be looking at that little niche I put in that wall and saying, hey, well, that's okay. My niche kind of looks good, but I'd kind of like to get rid of that wall that's in the middle there. Okay, so I can kind of get in there and use my little bay window. So here's the rub. If I come on over and I choose the wall, you'll see it chooses the whole wall. So if I delete, I'm going to wipe out the whole thing. Okay, not so good. So I'm going to undo. Remember, undo, it's your friend. Here's what I want to do. I would really love for that wall to not think of itself as one wall. I would love it for it to think of itself as two walls. Okay, so it's been a good relationship, but it's time for the split. Okay, so we're going to go over to the wall. We'll choose the wall. You'll see when you choose the wall, we have a little green tab that comes up. It says modify walls, and you're going to find this happens consistently. Whenever you choose something, you'll get a green tab that says modify that thing. It'll give you some choices about how you can modify that thing. And you'll find all sorts of things about rotating and copying and moving and aligning and all the kind of familiar kind of CAD tools. A really good one, though, is something called split. Okay, and there's actually even two variations, but I always use the one, so I don't even think about what the second one is. I think the second one I put two places. Split an element, split with a gap, with a defined gap. Okay. I'm just going to split the wall with my little X-Acto knife. Pretty nice. I'm just going to come over the wall and split it right there. Now, because I split it right there, you're one half and you're another half. And because I am now two separate walls, what I can do is choose this wall and grab the little blue dot and move it over. Okay, and make it one wall. So not too bad. So split's your friend. You're going to find out you have many friends up here, but split's a very good one. Now, the last thing we'll do, then we'll take our break, is I'm gonna join that other wall on the other side. And you can go ahead and just grab that and push the blue dot over. That'll work. There's always a lot of ways to do things. But I always like to show you little shortcuts too, because I could push that over. That would work. Okay. But if you've ever done any drafting, you might recognize there's a tool that usually helps you when you have two things come together, kind of make a neat corner. Okay, and sometimes it's called extend, sometimes it's called trim. In Revit, it's called trim. And the trim tool is right up here. It's TR for trim. That's not too bad. And here's how it works. The trim tool works like this. What you gotta do is you click on the things you wanna keep. Now, okay, I'll give you all these weird rules and I'll say things like that and it won't make sense at first. But as you keep on doing it, the weird language will actually start to kick in and you'll think like, okay, that's why he said it that way. And here's the way it works. You click on the sides you want to keep, that side and this side, and then I lose that side there. So let me do it the other way just to show you like why. If I click on this side and this side, I'll keep the other side. So what you're always doing is selecting the side you want to keep. Okay, so keep that, lose anything that was excess. Okay, we are looking fine. Okay, you got a good looking structure out here. That's looking fine. Let's go and take a break now. If you can, come back in 5. If you can, we're gonna put some doors and windows and a floor under this thing and we got a lot to go, but we will do it.